everybody, and thank you for joining me today on Love You, Live You podcast with myself, host Kathleen Heim. Today, I have a guest speaker. His name is Bryson Murphy. A lot of you may know him as Breezy RMG. He is a musician. He is a rapper. He's an artist. And anyway, he has what I love about Bryson or Breezy RMG. And the reason I have him on the show today is his message. He has a message of love. He believes that he is able to spread peace and love through his music, whether it's rap music or other music that he creates. So welcome to the show, Bryson. I'm so happy to have you. How are you today?
I'm doing great, thank you. And thank you for inviting me to the show. I am honored to be a part of this. And yes, I do have my message is love, just through and through, especially with the music, because I believe that like we talk about all the time, that music is the universal language from which everyone can, take a lot from and learn from. And it's the feelings that can change with those things. But I like to spread a lot of love through my music, just to heal people in different situations.
And that's awesome. That's awesome. I agree with you 100%. Music is a universal language. You don't even have to know when you listen to a song. You know if it's a sad song, you know if it's a happy song. You could just feel it. Even if it's in another language, you can feel the vibe, so to speak. And there are musicians who have no verbiage, no words to their music. And you can still feel what the message that they're trying to get across. And that's what I love about spreading messages through music, because you are able to touch people from all walks of life, from different languages, just based on what you're creating. And what's really interesting about you is the fact that you were universal. So you're not just a rapper, but you're a very accomplished rapper. And I've listened to your music and it's great. So you're touching an audience that's not often touched with the messages that you are trying to convey to people. But then you have other music that is not that. And I think that's pretty awesome that you've chosen that platform to evoke change in the world, in our youth, which is really important. I would like to know, Bryce, how did you get into music in the first place?
I got into music from a young age. My father used to sing. He had a band that would be in the living room pretty much every day. And I just love music from the first point of me remembering what music is just watching my dad and how he put things together, and he sung with his group. And God, I would watch Bobby Brown. A lot of people don't know that. I would watch this guy perform like crazy. I was like, man, I'm going to do that one day. But I fell in love with it because of my father. It's very, very thick line. My dad had a group. He writes music. He still sings to this day. And of course, the church had a lot of influence with him as well as myself.
Yeah, that's awesome. A lot of times you see that music does run in families, and at very big levels and at very, very discrete levels. Church, I see church is a common denominator. And you and I had a discussion before, and I have to tell you that I love music. I love to sing. I played some instruments. Everyone in my family plays, I think, some type of instrument or instruments, but we're not musicians. We don't claim to be musicians. However, I started in the church choir when I was 3 years old. And I think music is such a means of expression. It's a very, very good, just like writing. It's a means of expression. And sometimes it's with the music itself, the instrumentals, and sometimes it's the words. And I can remember sitting, trying to, hear the words, like learn all the words from a song, because I knew it touched my heart. This is a love song, and I'm feeling all this, and I'd stop my 8-track or my cassette player or my LP, and I'd write down the words, and I play it over and over and over to make sure I got it right. So I knew it was poetry to me. It was poetry, and I love to write poetry. So but why is that important? Because I know how much that touched me. It touched me. It allowed me to feel. It allowed me to express my emotions silently yet outwardly, because I felt like somebody understands how I'm feeling. Somebody's been there. They wrote a song about this.
Right.
And I feel like with you, that's what you're all about. You're about your expression, but your expression just isn't just about you. So talk to the viewers about what you're trying to accomplish through your message of love through your music.
My message of love through my music is just, as far as what I reach for, is just connecting with people. Just like you were mentioning, those stories do connect with other people. There's things that I'm going through that other people are going through as well. And some things I may not haven't even gone, or excuse me, haven't even gone through, but another person has talked to me about it, because I have a lot of friends that come to me and they want, they confide in me about a lot of different things. But if I'm able to put it in song format, I can reach a lot of other people just to let them know it's okay. You're not the only person going through that, and things are gonna be okay. You just have to stay focused, and just love through everything. And that's part about things that we talk about as far as being self-aware, is just learning to love, first of all, learning to love. And in music, I feel like if I can put a love, no matter what message that I'm trying to create throughout the music, if I add love to it to be the common denominator, people can walk through the different scenarios and situations within a song, like a breakup or something like that. But in the end of that song, I'd like to walk them through the first emotions of, first you're going to go through this step of emotion or where you feel really bad and I feel really bad, and then you're going to start to feel a little bit better, and then you're going to start to feel great, and then you'll learn how to love not only yourself, but you'll learn how to love again, and you'll have another opportunity with a different relationship. And that's basically what my message of music is about, is just connecting people through love and letting them know firsthand that you're not alone, period, in anything that you go through in life.
I heard you talk about two things. I heard you talk about self-awareness, which I want to touch on, and I also heard you talk about spreading love through, the music. And
Mm,
generally speaking, I would say that you are a rapper, right? So you touch those the younger, I would say a little bit more of the younger generation, which is great, and you're spreading your message of love through your rap music. But would you say generally speaking, a lot of the rap music we hear isn't so much about love? And what made you decide to spread your message in that forum to that community, so to speak?
mhm.
And how does self-awareness fit into the picture? And what does that mean to you?
Okay. The reason I chose, and let me back up a little bit here. A lot of music that you do hear doesn't have love in it, and the main reason and the key goes on that is, I found that, and I used to make a lot of music, and I won't be a hypocrite here, standing, as a rapper. I haven't spoke all about love in rap and different things like that, but I had to learn. It was a journey of understanding, and how do I put these things into context, and where do you find the love? But a lot of the songs that you hear that don't have love is because none of those people are self-aware. None of those people have had that personal feeling of love. So that's why you hear so much hate that comes out through the music and the things that they write, because music is an outlet for me, especially. And I know other artists as well. You write and you only know what you go through, right? So that's their expression. Never had a person to talk to, and I'm not saying me personally, but just as far as the things that we hear in the world, people never have had a person to talk to, so they're talking to their pen and the pad. That's their way of expressing that outlet, and that's why we hear things that sometimes we're like, ooh, that's kind of promoting violence or hate, but it's literally because they have nowhere else to put it. Um, but getting back on the topic of self-aware, um, is a lot of times people write these things because they're not self-aware. What is self-awareness? Self-awareness is when you start to question yourself on everything that you do. And not only do you question the things that you question your thoughts, and you start to analyze and try to figure out, why do I think this way? How do I think this way? Where did this start? Who taught me this, or who programmed me this, or programmed this into my mind? Why do I believe in what I believe in? And now I can start, now that I'm looking at myself and analyzing myself, now I'll be able to approach every situation a little bit different in scenario, and look at it a little bit different. Okay, when I see a person lashing out, I'm not going to say this guy's crazy. The first thing is going to come in my mind, because now I'm becoming self-aware of the things that I'm doing in my thought process and why things are happening. Now I can look at this guy that's lashing out and say, instead of saying he's crazy, I could say, there's a lot of backstory on this. That person probably never had a person that paid attention to them. That person may just want attention. And it may not all be bad for the person to want attention. It's just he never got it, or she never got it. And now I don't look at them just like as an outcast and say, this person's just horrible. I can see past all of that stuff because now I'm starting to become more self-aware myself. You can look at other people and say, okay, there's more underneath the skin than meets the eye, per se. Um, and my message of love, like, is especially to reach people through the music that aren't self-aware, to let them know that it's okay that you're not self-aware, but now that you understand and now that you know what self-awareness is, now let's start looking at ourselves and let's start identifying, find those identifiers of where the pain comes from, or where these habits come from, or what I do from that, and how can I learn to love if I don't love, or if I don't know how to love,
Right.
in those situations.
Yeah, no, I love that. And, it can, this conversation could not come at a better time. Right now, the viewers, I'm sure you're all aware, we are, just a week and a half, 2 weeks shy of the murder by cop of George Floyd. And there's a lot of civil unrest. There's a lot of anger, right? And how do you feel like you spreading your message of love will do you feel that you're able to have somewhat of a influence, mild, major, and if yes or if no, where does self-awareness have a part in everything that's going on right now, or does it?
Mm. Self-awareness has everything to do with what's going on right now. First of all, I'd like to say my heart goes out to the family of George Floyd, and the whole entire Black community, and even further beyond that, whether you're white, Black, Mexican, whatever you are, shades, we have to get rid of that, because once we start to become self-aware, that's when we're able to, get rid of the shade of skin, per se. And that's why I say self-awareness has so much to do with what's happening right now. It's heartbreaking, it's shattering, but we have to address it, and we have to figure out how to address it and why it's been going on for so long. And that's when we start, everything just points back to being self-aware. Um, Racism has no place in this world. And I'm gonna say on a broad scale, white, Black, I don't care what shade of color you are, racism has no place in this world. And we need to start becoming more self-aware of why we say certain things or why we're taught certain things. And we'll start to question, and we'll start to find the answers of why, whether I'm Black or I'm white, that we think the way we think, and the way we judge our actions, and the way we push actions forward based off of what we think, because we're not self-aware. My uncle or my grandfather or this person may have been a slave driver, and this is the way I think like this, but I don't think about that because I'm not self-aware. It's just passed down generation to generation to generation, and now I have racism, whether I'm white or Black, and I'm acting upon the way that I feel without truly knowing why I feel like I feel towards a different person at the end of the day. And self-awareness plays a huge key in that. And I think a lot of people say the term nowadays they use is awake. The awakeness of this new generation, and everybody saying I'm awake, but everyone says I'm self-aware, everyone says I'm awake, but yet we're still here again, right? It's sad, and it breaks my heart big time. And I won't always say what people want me to say or how people like me to say it, but I will say it. If we continue to be, not self-aware, then we will end up in more of these scenarios, and the scenario will continue to play out. There will be more Black people that get murdered, and there will be more, white people being murdered. There's going to be more, because we're going to keep pointing the finger at each other, pointing the finger at each other, pointing the finger at each other, and we're never self-aware, because we're just all based off of things that happened in the past and that are currently happening today, because it's boiled over due to the lack of self-awareness, that we're not going to be able to move forward. And I think it's very, very important to speak the truth and let everybody know that I stand personally with Blacks and whites and every shade of color, and that's through my message of love, because I love everyone. And I think it's so important that we all stand together. I was very happy to see, all the different shades of color stand together in protest. I wasn't happy to see the looting. People may say, oh, and that's where it comes into where I won't say things that are going to make people happy. It's going to be uncomfortable at times for all of us to address the situations. But if we can become more self-aware through action upon looking at ourselves in the mirror and say, what have I done to change these scenarios? Why do I feel like I feel when I see a Black person? Why do I feel like I feel when I see a white person? Why do I feel like this when I see an Asian person, or whatever the case may be? And this is not for everybody, but the shoe fits at the end of the day. And the subject that we're talking about right now, you have to ask yourself, why? Who taught me this? Where did I learn it? And begin there, and then start to change yourself, and then start to change yourself through actions of love. It's a very, very hard thing to do when you're becoming self-aware, is to portray and to push forward love, because you're going to have those thoughts that still come into your mind of negativity because you're training yourself. But when you see, if you're a racist person of white shade or Black, and you see the opposite, and you have these slew of emotions that go over you, you should say, first, let me think about, stop and think, first of all, and then say, why do I feel this way? Okay, stop, pause. Let me just portray love no matter what. And see how that works. See how that works, because hate with hate is always going to blow up more hate. Hate with love has blown up as well. But as long as you're being part of the change and not part of the problem, and you're pushing forward self-awareness and the message of love, no matter who's hating you, or no matter who's against you, or how you're feeling, and you're rejecting those negative feelings, we could really change the world by becoming more self-aware.
You know what, I can't agree with you more. And there's so many things that you just spoke to that were so important. I just don't even know where to start talking about them. I'm going to start with you said the term awoke. A lot of people say, oh, I'm woke, I'm awoke. But guess what? What does that mean to you? Because in reality, when you look at their actions, it's not the truth.
Right.
People aren't speaking the truth. So self-awareness is
a trend.
What was that?
It's become more of a trend, per se, than people actually understanding what the term means.
Oh yeah, no, I hear it all the time. Oh, I'm woke, I'm awake, I'm awoke. But then I look at those same people, and their actions don't match their words. And it's all about action. It's not about words. I am a huge believer in action versus words. Words are important, don't get me wrong. However, action speaks, far louder than words. And when you talk about that, be aware of why you're doing something. That's part of self-awareness. And being a nurse and an educator, we work with. I actually teach a course that believe it or not, this course started off as somewhat like a motivational interviewing, which is about how to help people evoke change. And I developed my own system, which is my book, The Rule of Nines, on how people can change themselves and live better lives. So just not to really touch on that, but to say one of the first things I tell people is you be aware of your own biases, your own prejudices, your own belief, because we just walk through the world, how we were taught. It's not our fault. Don't feel bad that you were taught from, grandma who taught, great grandma who taught grandma who taught mama who taught you. It's not your fault that that's what you were taught, but think for yourself. Because what I don't see, with self-awareness comes thinking for yourself, having your own thoughts, your own words, your own mind. And we are lacking persons, with their own minds, and we have social media, we have all these influencers. And part of self-awareness, okay, becomes, why am I prejudiced? I always throw out this random, and I do not feel this way. I want to make that very clear. But when I talk about, how you have to be aware, people know what you're thinking. So if you haven't dealt with your own stuff, you see everything through that filter. And when you talk to somebody, they're very aware of that. For instance, let's say as a nurse, let's just say I don't like anyone who's short, which is not the truth, but I'm just using that as an analogy. And I go into a patient's room and they're a midget. Or maybe they're just short, maybe they don't even fit that criteria. They're automatically going to know that I don't like them for some reason. And I've got some bias. The same with being, some, Black people, if they feel, white people feel that way, vice versa, Asian, I don't care what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to feel that. So deal with your stuff, so to speak, be aware of what it is that triggers you. Why does it trigger me? Probably you were taught you know, at an early age, and that's the only thing that you know. So, but what I really want to see more of, and what I see you doing with your music is taking that message and spreading it to the youth. A lot of it's to the youth, even though you'll speak to anyone. But you know, we need to build a you know, we have to build a strong legacy. We need to build our youth. We need to, change has not happened. We see ourselves in the same situation again. The Watts riots, the Rodney King riots. Now we're here in 2020, the same damn place. Something's got to change. So the thing is, I'm going to tell you, it would be very difficult to change our grandma or our mom in her 80s or somebody like that. But where do we have an influence? On the youth, and you're speaking to the youth through your music. So and building those strong leaders. And you cannot be a leader if you're not self-aware. You cannot be a leader if you're not able to love and to educate yourself. Don't just go on social media and because the majority, the masses say something, that you just don't be a duck. We need leaders. You know, you are a leader. And I love that about you. I mean, you're quiet, you're super low key, but you are a leader, and you're speaking here as a leader. And I appreciate that. So as a leader to our youth, you know, what do you have? I know you talk about self-awareness, but how can we create leaders in our youth in order to evoke change that is long overdue?
I strongly, excuse me, I strongly think that it just starts with us, right? You have to change yourself. You have to change the way you think, and then you can teach, reach one, teach one, right? You can teach the youth how to start becoming more self-aware and be aware of your platform. And this is whether you're a giant artist, you're not an artist, but you're well respected. Someone's always watching.
Mm-hmm.
I feel that, and I say this a lot to people, and it's just flat out the truth. I talk about it so much with so many people, and I'll kind of switch the envelope a little bit here just to explain it and break it down a little bit. We'll take a little child, right? And you tell a child, don't hit, don't hit, don't hit. A kid is not going to listen to what you say as much as learn through your actions. You saying don't hit, don't hit, don't hit, don't hit, but he or she observes you punching and hitting and hitting and punching and hitting and hitting. They are going to hit. So to fast forward it, to put it back back on track, is the way we make change and the way we reach the youth and the way we start teaching them is through action. Mm-hmm. There's more people that are paying attention to your actions than you would ever believe in. In my case, I have a platform. I worked very hard to build a platform that I have, whether it be through social media, which is not a million followers, but one follower is enough. Someone that's watching you and being aware of what you put out. I said, okay, I have a responsibility here. I love everyone. My mother taught me how to love everyone as well. And I have to start being more responsible and more self-aware of the material that I put out to the youth, because they're all watching, and this is how they learn. We say, oh, they all have guns, they're all slaying and killing so easy, but this is something that we've been teaching. They pay attention to your actions, and nowadays people watch television, and it's sad, but the youth think that everything on the television is true. Mm-hmm. They literally believe everything in the music video is true. They believe you have all this money. They believe you have all these cars, these clothes, these women. This is how you treat them. All these different things. Like, and I said, man, you know what? My platform is going to be different. And I can't go over here and say, you should change your platform and you should act like this and you should do this. When you do enough yous, and by the time you flip it around, you'll be standing in the mirror after you went through all of the yous, and you'll be looking right at yourself pointing in the mirror. Oh my because God, you literally have to start with yourself. And with my platform, I say, okay, I make the music for them to party to. And just being flat out honest, I make the music for them to make love and have sex to, and whatever have you. And these are the different types of emotions that go through the normal human being. But my responsibility is to be a leader. And the way that I lead is to be able to put out music that has a positive message and be positive. You know, it's cool to make the party songs and different stuff like that, but you need to use the platform, especially in this timing, of being a self-aware person and saying, hey, I'm self-aware, and teaching and preaching self-aware. You have to practice what you preach. I preach self-awareness. I'm in the midst of recording a lot of positive music so that I could put it out so people could understand the emotions of how it comes firsthand from a Black guy and a Black man and how it feels. And I have white friends, and I have that gift to be able to understand what they say and have a conversation and put that into song format and put it out there so that we can start to understand each other a lot better, so that we can bring it into each other. When you look at it, we all have a lot of the same message, and we're all being taught the same things. And we just have to be really careful when we say I'm awake, and then your actions doesn't show it. I've done it. I've been guilty. I've been guilty of doing it myself. I'm awake. I'm positive. But then you go back and look at your track record of history and say, huh, I'm really awake. But the only thing that I've ever given them was hip hop, rapping about a few cars and clothes, and talking about some football stuff, and talking about this and a relationship. And that's fine to do that, to be far as to let people have a good time. But my platform is growing, and I want it to grow in the right direction. So I have to implement love, keep that love in there, and keep love as the message and that positivity. And that's how I can contribute. It starts with one person, and that youth is watching me, and they're saying, huh, so he made that really cool for us to still party and be cool, but understand that life is not a game, and that's not what it's all about. We have to make sure that we're putting forward the message of love and loving each other, so that we can party together and have a good time together, but understand that life is very serious, and we should all be self-aware. And if I teach it to one person, it's going to go to the next youth, down to the next youth, down to the next youth, and it'll continue to flip and change, vice versa.
And I love that, because that's exactly the truth, what you're saying. And there's so many things I could touch on. The looking in the mirror, a lot of us want to look outwardly through our lens, but we don't want to look in the mirror and face ourselves. Do you like what you see?
Right.
Really look at yourself. Do you like what you see? If somebody else was looking at you, would you expect them to like that? That's huge.
Right.
And also, you're spreading this message through the music. And so one thing that's really interesting is how things have changed. So we have to go with the flow. And it seems like you've gone with the flow, so to speak. So how to change the future generations is through, a platform such as music. It's not the white collar or blue collar, whatever person with the suit and tie standing up at the podium, giving a speech anymore. That's not how we reach our youth. And you said, and then they pass it on, and they pass it on, they pass on. We have to circumvent. And I saw something that really resonated with me. And it's similar to what you're saying. And I saw it on social media, but it was a heart. And it said, until you fix it here and then address it here, which was a house, there won't be change here, which was the world. And that's exactly what you're talking about. Fix it here, take it down to your house, to your level, to those people, meaning the people under your roof, your children, you have children, maybe your friends, if they're willing to listen. And then, and then guess what? then you just broke the chain. It's different. There's a new thought process, and they'll bring it on to you broke the negativity that so many of us has had. And I mean, black, white, whatever it is, there are a lot of, white people of, white color skin who were taught to be, distrusting or to not like. But where did that come from? Not your experience. Where did your grandma's experience? Maybe maybe, and vice versa. It's real. However, if we want change, we gotta figure it out a different way, because the world is not the way it was before. We got to figure that shit out, because this is getting old, and this is getting serious, and this is not okay. I am not okay with my kids growing up, and living a life and having families and racial integration and what have you in their families, and having to deal with this crap. I'm over it. So again, how are we going to fix it? Again, I can't change you. I can't change anybody. But what I can change is me. Okay. And if we all change ourselves, collectively, change occurs. But how do we do that? By speaking up. Because so many people don't want to go against the masses, and they believe social media, and not just speaking up. I'm going to tell you, Bryson, it's education. Educate yourself. Is what you're hearing or what you've been taught, is that the truth?
Right.
You know what? We have a lot, look it up. I taught my kids this from a very early age. My kids have a mind of their own because they would come home and say, oh, some scenario of something. Well, how do you know that? Well, so and so told me. Well, how do you know that they're right? I taught them how to look it up. So it's not just, it's being self-aware and it's educating yourself. So you're able to make decisions for yourself. And we need leaders. Like I feel you're a leader. You're very loving and very quiet and you're through your music, but you're a leader. And we need more of that. And leaders come in different formats than they used to, and people need to be open to those formats. So I appreciate you, and I don't mean to get on a soapbox of how I feel about this. I just feel like
Great.
tired of the same thing happening over and over. We need to fix it.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I love the message. If I change me, and I can ultimately, I've contributed to changing we.
Yeah, because you're going to change it. You have kids.
Yeah.
You have kids. You have a wife. You have, I mean, right there in your little household. Think how that gets passed down to generations. And if everybody took responsibility, and I encourage everybody out there, take responsibility for your own self. Don't blame anything on anything that happened before, because guess what? That's a past. We're in the present. We have the future to look forward to. If you want to make it a future that we look forward to, then you have to stop. Think for yourself,
You do. Absolutely. And that's something that I teach. My 8-year-old daughter, I even encourage her, it's okay to think for yourself. It's okay not to like what your dad feels about a certain subject. And she does that now. And I encourage people, when you teach your children this, understand that they're going to push the envelope. And if they question you on some stuff, this is how you know that you are really teaching the proper way of your children thinking. I see it so much where people saying, "Oh, I, they just shut their children down immediately after they're preaching, oh, think on your own." But when they start thinking for themselves, then they just, oh, no, you need to be quiet, shut up, or whatever the case may be. It's like, no, we need to hear them out, because this is where the root of a lot of these issues start, is shut up, be quiet, you don't have a voice. That's
Oh,
where it starts at. That's where it starts, a lot of it.
Bryson,
And
go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine.
No, I'm going to tell you that is, you struck a chord with me. I'm using music terminology, but when I was a child, I had a lot to say, and that was based. My parents were doing what their parents did. Who their parents did was children should be seen and not heard. I literally got my mouth taped shut,
Wow.
literally taped shut, so I couldn't speak. But I was a kid, I'm not going to talk, and I would kind of try to talk through the tape, and I thought that was awesome. But really, there's so much validity to what you're saying. We want to do this, and we've done too much of this. If we feel we've raised those kids right and we're giving them a voice. I love how you do that with your 8-year-old daughter. You're giving her a voice, and we don't have to agree. As long as she can rationalize, your 8-year-old daughter, why she believes the way she did, she's right.
Big time, big
Don't have
time.
to agree.
And I back off, and I practice shutting up a lot. That's why I'm more quiet these days. I practice shutting up and listening. My grandmother says some stuff I've ever heard. My grandmother said, if you're too busy talking, then you didn't hear it. You didn't hear a thing, and you didn't learn anything because you thought you knew everything. And that's so important, is just to pay attention and listen to people. A lot of these people that we see nowadays that are, lashing out and murdering people and doing different kind of things that we consider crazy. These are people that have been trying to have a voice, and they've been shut down their whole lives. And a lot of them are mental illness. Let's not excuse that. We've done that for so long, and now I'm happy to see that we're finally starting to say, oh, mental illness is real. Aha, it's really a real issue. Oh, yes, it's been a real issue. Mental illness but it started somewhere. I want to kind of quote this doctor that I worked with, and she's a very, very close friend of mine. And of course, due to HIPAA laws, I will not say any names, but this doctor friend of mine that was very, very close to me, we worked in pain management together. And this is along the time, I've always been kind of aware, but not so self-aware, but working with her, and I walk in the office and she's kind of down. We've had a rough day. Pain management was rough. People just want their medication. The doctor becomes a drug dealer per se. And she was so down in the dumps, and I was like, so why are you down? And she's like, just, it's really bad. People screaming at me, yelling at me, they're turning on us. They're, very angry about these medications, and pain management wasn't her field of work. They just, with the partnership, she had to take on that segment to kind of get going. And she was a younger doctor, but I said, don't you just want to fire this patient, just not thinking properly, but, don't you just want to get rid of this patient? Like, because you have to deal with these issues day in and day out. She says, I would never fire this patient unless then they got into a physical situation. But the main message that she said was, I won't throw out this patient. I'm going to be patient with this person, and I'm going to get to the root of the issue, because I'm not angry at the patient. I'm angry at someone started this situation. She says, this patient walked in and someone said, I have a pain here. And someone, without thinking properly, just said, here you go, without doing the research and finding out if they have an addictive personality or trait or family history or anything like that. And they threw something at them that really, really hurt the person, and that they're not able to be themselves because they're all loaded on these narcotics and stuck on them at this point. And she said, I'm not angry at them. I'm more angry at who started this, and I'm a part of this now. So I have to get to the root of this, because I want to turn this around and show this person who they really are.
Wow, that's awesome. And one person at a time, just one, and that's awesome. I so many times being a nurse, I've been in a situation where the patient was judged because of their addiction, and I believed, like, there's a reason this person is in this predicament. There's a reason they're in the ER at 19 years old with an addiction. And oh, they're just an addict. Oh, don't give them medicine, or just give them. It depends on who you are. That some people are, don't give them any medication. They're just an addict. And then other people, we can't fix their addiction. Just give them their medication. And I always like to have like that inquiring mind who wants to know. I ask a lot of questions, obviously.
Sure.
How did this start? And the stories I heard, again, it's passed on. My mother was a drug addict. She started giving me drugs and medications at 8. And so you just never know what they're going through. Again, that's about getting self-awareness, because taking out my personal prejudices and biases or why this person is addicted. They're not just an addict, they're a human being. And and going back to all these situations too, like there was something that you said earlier about I don't remember exactly what you said, Bryson, but I always wonder what the world would be like if we had no vision, if nobody could see. We don't know what someone's hair looks like, if their roots from the COVID-19 haven't been done. You cut your own hair, but we don't know. But I mean, right? It's been almost 4 months I've been in here, so that, because we're still not open completely, hardly at all, actually. Well, we started to open, but then everything went down, civilly, and so that closed everything back up. But really, like, we don't know what color somebody is. We don't know if their nose is too big, or their eyes are too slanted, or that their hair is fallen out, or it's gray. Like, who would we choose to be in our life if we couldn't see? So a lot of the time, what part of my self-awareness journey, which I'm always on, there's always room for improvement, is closing my eyes in like without closing my eyes. Like, what am I hearing? Who is this person? It makes it, to me personally, I feel like I am far more open to what's being said when I can't see, so much. You don't see the nonverbal communication. You don't see, like mannerisms, movements. You don't see the color of the skin. You don't see the wrinkles on their face or the roots on their hair. You know what I'm saying?
Powerful.
But really, if you want to, I think on your self-awareness journey, close your eyes. And who would you have? Like, if you really listen to the words of what's being said by those around you, would you choose to have them in your life? If
Right.
not, you know what? If you choose to lovingly let people go because you're not on the same journey, you're not on the same path, lovingly let them go, because then you make room for those who are. And I think that's important. So anyway.
I think to touch on that while you're on that subject is learning to let people go is a really, really big deal. No matter how close you feel that you are, you know, in the situation, you could always still love people, but not every person that's in your circle is good for you at the end of the day. You may want to love each other and just be friends, or, you know, whatever, but they may not relate to the message that you're trying to get across. And it's okay to be yourself. Like God, I want to get that out so bad to people, because I've seen so many at my time, and me at one point just wanting to fit in, to the point that you just start doing things that you know is outside of your character. It's okay to be you. It's okay to walk away from those people and understand that you love someone, but you can love them enough to walk away from them, and be the example, and maybe they'll walk away from what they're doing too.
Yeah,
At the end of
100%.
the day. Yeah, yeah. So it's that's really big. I really love, I love everything about what you just said. I'd like to challenge all of us, um, myself included, to start doing that and just think of that scenario. And I think that should be part of every person's self awareness. I'm definitely going to try it, because I've never thought about it from that scenario.
Yeah, and definitely, I like what you said is people. There's people that I don't have in my life because they're not good for me. I love them. I
Hmm.
love them just as much as I loved them when they were in my life. However, I realize when they're not good for me, that you have to let them go. You have to, because it's not healthy for your growth, your personal growth, and I think that's, we're on the same page with that. But just to wrap it up, I just, do you have any message for, you know, we've talked about a lot of things. We've talked about self music, we've talked about self awareness, we've talked about love. We've talked about the current social climate with the civil unrest and the death of George Floyd, and I just, what parting words do you have for those who are listening?
My parting words would be, for those who are listening, is going to be, look, listen, let's start learning. Let's just say love. Find out what love means. What's the definition of love? Why do we find out why we hate? Find out what we're doing and how we're going to fix it. Let's identify our own personal. And when I say we, it's you and I. Let's look in the mirror. Let's identify what we're doing wrong versus looking at what everyone else is doing wrong. And I want to say, I stand, on the side of no more racism. I'm done with racism. It doesn't stand. White, black, Asian, I don't care what you are. It doesn't stand. Let's start questioning why we think the way we think, and why we feel the way we feel, and why we treat each other so bad. Because just like she said, if you close your eyes, the only thing that you have to go off of is based off of the energy and the sound of a person. And each one of us are so unique, and we all matter so much, because we're all unique and made to make an impact on the world. And I just think it's time for us to start changing that scenario. I don't want to see any more black people die at the hands of a white supremacist, cop, black person, black man or female. I don't violence. Martin Luther King is one of my is a guy that I look up to, you know, even though of course I'm younger, but I study a lot of Martin Luther King, and people may think I'm crazy at this point in time, for still, because they're like, that doesn't work, you got to change it. But it's a shame that it takes violence and breaking down of all of us doing. It wasn't just black people breaking and looting, it was everybody.
Everybody,
And
everybody.
then, and then when we turn around and look, and we're like, oh, there's white, blacks, there's Asian, we're all standing for Black Lives Matter. And now we've, you know, as far as the people that were looting, we've tore up our stuff, and we're all brothers and sisters. Let's stop hurting each other, and let's start building each other up by taking care of self mental. Let's teach better. Let's walk the walk. Let's stop this. This is the year of awakening. Okay. We've got coronavirus. We've already been tore down and killed and murdered by an illness, a sick illness that is still destroying all of us. I don't care if you got privilege or you unprivileged, and of course we're always going to have that unequal yoke that we're trying to solve for. But I feel like the key to solving it all is learning that self-awareness. Start asking yourself those questions. Start asking your people those questions. If your mother's still living there, ask her how she was taught. Ask her how her grandmother was. You will start to dig and dig and dig and start to understand why you believe what you believe, why you see what you see, whether you're white, black, Asian, I don't care. And I want to implement that so much, because with Martin Luther King, for him, even though the blacks were being suppressed so bad, you know, and even as they are today, um, nonviolent was always his answer.
Mm-hmm.
And even died and even got murdered, and still would probably preach to you nonviolent, because he saw the bigger picture in his dream, and it was to start understanding and learning each other, and understanding that the pigment of our skin, you know, it doesn't, you know, it doesn't break us down and separate us as people, because when I cut you, you're red and you bleed. When you cut me, I bleed. We're all susceptible to different diseases. There's been a lot of wrongdoing by ancestors. We started to change that. I want to stop living off of the scenario of all of the past things and start looking at the self-awareness things and finding out why. We know that blacks have been suppressed, and there has been awful things, and we've been targets. I'm a black man myself. I've been a target. I've had run-ins with the police officers, but I've also had run-ins with fantastic officers that are not even a shade of my color, but that also offers that good breadth of, there is good always in the bad. Let's find out what we contribute to it personally, and then we can start to turn this thing around together as people and start to love one another, and recognize I'm privileged too. I'm just gonna keep it real. I work my behind off. I come from the ghetto. My mother was a great teacher. I worked my butt off. I got with a beautiful lady that works her buns off and her butt off. And now my children are privileged. They may not be going through what I went through, but I worked really hard to do that, and I changed that scenario. But all of us that are privileged, let's just start recognizing that, and we say we're thankful, but we can't really truly be thankful until we recognize how privileged we are, and we're able to, and I challenge every person of privilege to say, hey, let me give back something where I can. And that may not be in a form of money, because you don't have to go and give $1 million to a person to spark change. Do something for somebody else, and in effort to change this race inequality, do something for somebody else of an opposite color. Let's start walking together. Reach out to a random black guy or woman or female, and not in the forms of bad, wanting to do bad things or have sex with this lady because she's beautiful, or this guy because he has muscles. Let's start to reach out to one another and get to know each other. Find out who their mothers are. Find out how their family tradition is. Let's start doing that on a daily basis. And before you know it, we will have taught each other so much things about each culture that we'll probably find out that we were all very close to the same, especially as far as thinking about each other, than we even could have ever imagined. And I think that that's something we should do. And to come back to the saying of the challenge is to start doing something, period, for someone that's not your race, someone that's outside, someone that you would never speak to that person. I talk to homeless people. People think I'm crazy. I've talked to a lot of homeless people, and you will find out that they came up in very, very bad situations, and a lot of them are very, very smart. It's just an unfortunate, and they don't have the same privilege that we had. They didn't come up the way we came up. Even though I grew up in a rough neighborhood and rough ghetto, my mother was a provider. I may not have had everything that I wanted, but I had everything I needed. That's a privilege.
Right.
I know a lot of people that didn't have the essentials that they needed in life, like soap, toothpaste, simple things like that. So let's start reaching back to these people and start loving. Like, my main message is just, let's start loving each other. Like, in everything that we do, there's going to be people that try to persuade you to do different. That's how you start identifying the people that don't match your energy, and stop forcing relationships. This is something that me and my brother talk about all the time. I'm guilty of it. You're guilty of it. We are guilty of it. There's no such thing as you and I. There's a we. in this situation. We all live on here. We all breathe the same air. We all are susceptible to the same kind of diseases, and we all shall die, no matter what or how. Let's start paying attention. Let's love one another. Let's stop the hate. If a person wants to be racist or hate, get away from them. Separate. Let's start loving. Let's start loving each other, no matter what, at all costs.
Well, I love your message, and thank you so much for sharing it. I really love I love what you said, reach out to somebody of a different race every day and get to know them. You know, there are people that have, live in areas where there's a lot of mixed races and you get to know each other. But even then, how often do you talk about how they feel about what's going on, how they grew up? So I love that. And again, it's all about looking in the mirror. It's all about getting past, getting past your biases, your prejudices, realizing that that's something that was that was embedded in your brain, and that you have the ability to change that, and to not accept the fact that you were told how you're to think, because we should never be told how to think. We all have a mind of our own. And your message of love through your music and everything is so appreciated. And Bryson, I'm going to have you back on my show if you're willing, because I know that we're coming to the end, and I feel like we have so many different areas that we could touch based on what you said. You're a leader, and you're leading, you're evoking change through your music. And I really appreciate that. And I'm so thankful that you took the time, to talk with the viewers and share your voice and your message. It's needed, very needed. Thank you.
I appreciate you. And just something that we can learn right now is, if you look at this screen, what two shades do you see having a beautiful discussion, and are able to talk about issues and them not get heated?
Because, Bryson, I'm just going to take a wild guess. Because, although I feel as a person, a human being, I'm always evolving and I've got a lot of work to do. I'm not perfect, far from it. However, I close my eyes. I don't even need to close my eyes. I look at every single human being that I come in contact for who they are. You show me who you are through your words. You show me who you are through your actions. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what religion. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're 8 years old or you're 88 years old. It's irrelevant. I think we're both open-minded, open-hearted. And I keep thinking of that thing. If you fix what's in here and you bring it here to the home, then you have that change. And that's where it starts, to fix it.
It does.
So I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And everybody, Bryson Murphy, aka Breezy RMG, rapper, musician, leader in the community for change. And I thank him for coming on the show. Bryson, tell the viewers, how can they get a hold of you?
You can find me on Instagram at BZRMG, and that's BEEZY RMG, is a capital. You can find my music on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music. Good Lord, I'm everywhere. Apple Music. But you can find me on Facebook at Bryson Murphy, BRYSON MURPHY is the last name. And you can email me. I really, really want to be part of change. Even if you have questions, you have disagreements, anything, I'm open to conversations, because when we start the conversation, we begin to learn more from one another. So email murphy.bryson@gmail. If you have any questions or want to have great conversation, I am for it at any time. You guys make sure that you go and get her book, Rule of Nines, on Amazon. She's incredible. And I'm very, very happy and thankful and grateful to be able to have this interview and you share your platform with me as well.
Well, you're very welcome, and I'm thankful to have you. So again, Bryson Murphy, aka Breezy RMG. And as far as me, you can reach out to me the same. You can go to my website, www.LYLY.com, and you can send me an email, and I promise that I will personally respond to you. And until then, everybody have a blessed day. And remember that change starts within. It all starts with you, and it is never, ever too late to change. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in.